Okay guys, hi. Today we're going to talk about our more number patterns. If you guys remember from our last lesson, we talked about the number patterns, they use the same operation throughout the whole entire number pattern. So like if we had the pattern that's shown here, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, then since number 1, remember our rule is number 1, we have to decide if it's increasing or decreasing. Well, I know it's increasing. And then I have to figure out how much it's increasing with each step. So from 4 to 6 I can add 2, from 6 to 8 I can add 2, from 8 to 10 I can add 2, and so on and so forth. So I know that my rule is I want to add 2 every time. So yesterday we talked about some simpler number patterns. Today we're going to get into ones that change with several steps. Okay? And so sometimes it's possible to have a number that requires 2 operations between each number. So like in between each number it's a +2 -5 or something like that. But then sometimes it can switch between 2 different operations in a sequence. Maybe between the first 2 numbers I'm adding 5, but then between the next 2 numbers I'm multiplying by 2. So sometimes that can exist in number patterns too. So let's look at a couple examples. For this first one, I have 8, 9, 4, 5, 0, 1. Well, these numbers seem to be all over the place because here I'm getting bigger, then I'm back to being smaller, getting bigger, now I'm back to being smaller, getting bigger. So since I don't know if I'm increasing or decreasing, it seems to be doing both. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that first step we learned about, and I'm going to go right into the second step and figure out how these numbers are changing from one step to the next. Okay, so I need to get my pencil out and ready to go. So to get from 8 to 9, I know that that's pretty simple. I can add 1. Okay, to get from 9 to 4 though, I'm decreasing, and an easy way to decrease here is subtracting, and I know I can subtract 5. 9 minus 5 equals 4. Now I'm getting back to getting bigger again. From 4 to 5, I know that's adding 1. Oh, I'm adding 1 again. And from 5 to 0, now I'm decreasing. So how do I get from 5 to 0? Well, 5, if I take away 5, I get 0. So 5 minus 5 is 0. Now to get from 0 to 1, I can add 1. So sometimes in patterns, you see a pattern within the pattern. So that part that I highlighted right there, you should hopefully, with your eyes, be able to see the pattern that exists. And so I want to ask you, what would we call that pattern? How would you name it? Ask yourself that first before I tell you what this rule is here. Ask yourself that first. What would you name that pattern? If someone were to ask you, what's the rule? What would you say? Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to think about that for a second. And looking at this rule I have +1 minus 5 +1 minus 5 +1, I can assume that my next set of numbers would be -5 if this pattern kept going. And so a very simple way to name this rule is that I'm adding 1, then I'm subtracting 5. Add 1, then subtract 5. And so this rule, it would keep repeating throughout the series of the pattern, or the duration of the pattern. Okay, so it's +1 minus 5. All right, let's look at the next one. Again, now I have numbers that are getting bigger, getting smaller, getting bigger, getting smaller, getting bigger. So maybe I'll have something similar to what I have up here above. So to get from 2 to 9, how is that number changing? I know that I can add 7. I know from 9 to 8, I can subtract 1. From 8 to 15, I know that I can add 7. From 15 to 14, I know I can subtract 1 again. And from 14 to 21, there I go again, adding 7. So since you saw what happened up here on this problem, now I want you to think, what would be hidden behind this box here? Okay, let's take a look. If you said add 7, then subtract 1, you are correct. Add 7, then subtract 1. That's the rule for this pattern, how those pattern numbers are increasing and even decreasing within the pattern. Okay? All right, now, what I want you to do today in the comments section, or I'm sorry, not the comments section, with your assignment today, you're going to be making a pattern. You're going to have two questions with, you're going to have a question with making a pattern of times 5, then subtract 3. Let's do one of these together first. Okay? So I have add 8, then subtract 4. Okay? I know these numbers are going to be getting bigger, then they're going to be getting smaller. Then bigger, then smaller, because I'm adding, then I'm subtracting, then I'm going back to adding, then I'm subtracting. So let's start with a number. I'm going to start with lucky number 7. Okay? If I start with 7 and the first part of my rule is adding 8, what would my next number be in my pattern? If you said 15, you're correct, because this is 7 plus 8 equals 15. Now, I need to subtract 4. That's the next step to my pattern. So 15 minus 4 is going to be what? 11. If you said 11, you're correct. So since this is a repeating pattern of plus 8, then subtract 4, I'm going to keep repeating that with my pattern. So now I have 11. I want to add 8 again. 11 plus 8 is 19. Now I'm going back to the minus 4. 19 minus 4 is 15. Now I'm going back to the plus 8. Now I'm thinking 15 plus 8 is going to be 23. And then I'm going to do a subtract 4. 23 minus 4 gives me my next number in the pattern, which would be 19. All right, so now you've seen how this pattern is done with plus 8 minus 4. At the conclusion of the video, you'll have an assignment to create a pattern with times 5, then add 3. So your job is to come up with 6 numbers in a pattern that would follow the rule of times 5 minus 3. So let me say that again. After you finish watching the video, one of the questions you'll have for your assignment is to create a pattern. You can have any starting number. I chose 7, but you can choose what to start with. Choose a number. That'll be right here. Then come up with the next 5 numbers that follow the rule times 5 minus 3. That means that you'll have 6 numbers total, because this is the one that you started off with here, and then you're going to add 5 more based on the pattern. So in your pattern should be times 5 minus 3 times 5 minus 3, and then times 5. Okay? So that's going to be part of your assignment at the conclusion of this video. Okay? Now let's look at 2 more practice problems. I have 80, then 70, then 75, 65, then 70. So I know to get from 80 to 70, that one's pretty easy. I'm subtracting 10. To get from 70 to 75, I'm adding 5. From 75 to 65, subtracting 10. From 65 to 70, again, now I'm adding 5. So the best way to describe this pattern would be what, guys? Think of that for just a second. What's behind the yellow box? If you answered that the rule is subtract 10 then add 5, you are correct. The last part for your homework tonight on the assignment, another question that you'll have for following the video is you have 2, 6, 7, 21, 22. As part of your answer tonight following the video is I want you to tell me what is the rule for this pattern. Okay? So good luck. Your homework, or basically your video response questions, are this problem right here and this problem right here. If you have any problems answering them, or if you're confused on how to do it, watch the video again or watch a portion of the video again, whatever you need to do. Okay? All right. I'll see you in class. Bye.